Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, in my opinion, are going to be the most intriguing driver lineup to watch in 2021. There is no doubt that they are both great drivers and really fun personalities as well that will work well together and help McLaren in that competitive midfield in their fight to retain and maybe even improve on that third place finish from last year. But the thing that I am most looking forward to is the inter-team rivalry, because even though these two drivers are great friends and great competitors and a really fun combination to watch as teammates, in my opinion, both are at critical points in their careers, and 2021 will be a career-defining season for both of them. So let's talk about why 2021 is going to be important for both of these drivers and why beating the other is going to be career-defining depending on who comes out on top. The best place to start is Daniel Ricciardo. Now, Ricciardo was one of those drivers that's been bouncing around the grid over the past few years, going from Red Bull to Renault and now going into his third different team in 4 seasons. I think looking back, the decision to leave Red Bull, some might say, was a mistake, especially looking at what Max was able to achieve in the 2 seasons without Daniel. And there is no doubt in my mind that had Ricciardo stayed, he definitely would have added more podiums and even more wins over the course of 2019 and 2020. But he himself said that a change of environment was what he was looking for, and in the end, you can't change the past, you can only learn from your decisions and shape the future. And so now Ricciardo finds himself at McLaren, which hopefully will be his long-term home, and a team that can hopefully give him the chance to fight for titles in the very near future, which is exactly what a talent like Ricciardo deserves. He also put a lot of faith in the team straight away by leaving Renault very early in 2020, and instead of extending his contract with Alpine, he chose to sign a 3-year deal with McLaren, which shows a lot of trust in McLaren's future and also gives the team a lot of confidence. For Ricciardo himself, this will be a massive season for his career going forward. I have no doubt that Ricciardo will be at least on the pace of the midfield from the very first race. That to me is not even debatable. He is a highly adaptable driver, and even when he got to Renault in 2019, he himself admitted that at first it was a little bit tricky to get used to the handling and, more importantly, the braking characteristics of the Renault compared to the Red Bull. But after only a few races, he quickly adapted and worked with the team to get on top of those issues and was quickly back to his brilliant best, which is exactly what I expect him to do again, because he is one of the highest caliber drivers on the grid. In terms of the season itself, Ricciardo has to make sure that whilst he builds a strong relationship with Lando as teammates and is also integrating himself into the team as smoothly as possible, to where not only does he fully trust the team, but that they also fully trust him, especially when he has something critical to say either about the team or the car, or even challenges them on something like strategy during a race. They've got to build that trust to be able to maximize everything out of their package, which is, I think, what made McLaren so great last year. Although they finished 3rd in the Constructors, I don't necessarily think they had the outright 3rd best car over the course of the whole season. But it was the experience of Carlos, the speed of Lando, and the ability of the team to work together that made them one of the best partnerships on the grid, and which allowed them to snatch that 3rd place away from a team like Racing Point. Ricciardo going in needs to make sure that as the big new signing, as the guy with the top team experience and someone who is very capable of getting multiple podiums and isn't fazed by the pressure of having to fight for race wins, that he continues to push himself and the team in 2021 and doesn't get complacent. Because although McLaren probably won't be challenging for a title this year, although that definitely would make for a great season, he needs to make sure that if that opportunity does arise in 2021, 2022, or whenever, it's him and not his teammate who brings the title to McLaren. In terms of the mental side, that's an interesting one, because whilst Daniel and Lando will make a great pairing and I'm sure do the best for the team, Daniel in the back of his mind will know that he needs to beat Lando to maintain his status as a potential champion for the future, although how their teammate dynamic develops will be very interesting to watch over the course of the whole season. So to me, Ricciardo is pretty much a known quantity. I can almost guarantee that whatever car he is given, he's absolutely gonna smash it, and if the McLaren is anywhere near as good as it was last season, Ricciardo has to score multiple podiums in 2021 and pick up exactly where Carlos Sainz left off. So now let's talk about Lando himself. Now, Lando Norris to me has been probably the hardest driver to rate on the current grid. There's no denying his speed in quali, which I think stacks up with some of the best drivers on the field, and on race day he has got a real eye for overtaking, and certainly in 2020 he improved vastly over his rookie season in terms of being more aggressive and more assertive at the start of races. But having said all of that, now having 2 years of F1 under his belt, he is not a quote-unquote young driver anymore despite being only 21. And with a driver like Ricciardo coming into what effectively is Lando's team, the team that he's been building around himself, and driving a car in 2021 that Lando knows better than anyone else given that he has been part of the design process with the engineers from the beginning, surely this is the year that Lando needs to take control and outperform Ricciardo to show that he is the team's future in terms of winning championships. So this is the thing, in terms of qualifying, I expect it to be one of the closest head-to-head battles on the entire field, which is exactly how it was between Sainz and Norris. As good as Ricciardo is in quali, there is no way we'll see a repeat of last year because I just can't see Lando getting dominated in qualifying. He is just too quick over one lap for that to happen, and if anything, I'm leaning more in the favour of Lando getting the better of Ricciardo in qualifying the way Max did at Red Bull. But in terms of the races and then subsequently the championship, this is what is most important come the end of the season. The thing about Lando is that he has proven over the last 2 years that he is unquestionably a great driver and a special talent that can go toe-to-toe with some of the best drivers in the midfield. However, many people also consider him to be a surefire future world champion, with many people saying that he could be the next Lewis Hamilton, and this is where I deviate quite a bit. Now, whilst obviously he still has at least a decade minimum in the sport ahead of him, I've never been one of those that 100% considers him to be championship material if he was put up against the likes of Verstappen or Leclerc right now. Long-term viewers will know that I don't just hand out the future world champion tag to just anyone who gets a podium or has 1 or 2 good seasons. And also, if you look back at the last decade at all of the young drivers who I consider to not only be special talents but more so generational talents, the likes of Ricciardo, Verstappen, Leclerc, at a very early age and even with not a huge amount of experience, they were quickly able to take over teams and take big pressurized situations into their own hands and beat more experienced teammates. Ricciardo, in only his 3rd full season in the sport, exactly where Norris is right now, was able to beat the defending 4-time consecutive world champion in his first season at Red Bull. Verstappen at the age of 18 against Ricciardo at Red Bull from the very first race was not just some young driver doing a pretty solid job, he was more than a match for Ricciardo and in many people's eyes was the better driver. Leclerc, again in only his 2nd season in Formula 1, his first for Ferrari, and like Lando Norris, only being 21 years old at the beginning of 2019, was able to come into the most pressure-filled seat at Ferrari and take it over by beating his more experienced teammate Sebastian Vettel at the first time of asking. All of these drivers are his competition, and although you might be thinking that I'm just cherry-picking great drivers on the grid, you would be exactly right, because if you want to win a Formula 1 World Championship, there is no easy road and there's no easy drivers to beat. Just in the last decade alone, Hamilton, Vettel, Alonso, Rosberg, Verstappen, that is the caliber of drivers that are either winning or fighting for titles, and at some point, if you have aspirations of being a world champion, you can't keep finishing behind these guys, you've got to go out and beat them. I believe Lando has that raw speed and raw talent. He's proven that already in my opinion, but now it's time for him to take it to the next level and show Ricciardo that as good as he has been, this is Lando's team, and if anyone is winning a title for McLaren in the future, it's him. And so this is why for me this driver lineup is just so fascinating. There's no doubt that they will be a strong pairing, but both of them have something to prove, and there is so much on the line heading into this season. For Ricciardo, it's a chance to prove once again that he can come into any team and immediately be that #1 guy and the driver that has the best chance to win the team the title if the opportunity arises. He certainly has been that guy ever since he arrived at Red Bull, but how will he cope going up against an improving hotshot like Lando head to head? And as for Lando, he is a great driver and someone who's not only exciting to watch, but is developing into one of the most solid drivers on the field with lots of energy and momentum behind him. But 2021 and his rivalry with Ricciardo will tell us if Lando is truly a guaranteed future world champion and someone who should be talked about with the likes of Verstappen and Leclerc, or just a really great midfield driver who still isn't ready to really challenge and beat the likes of Ricciardo in equal machinery. Either way, this is going to be one of the most intriguing driver lineups to watch, not only for the success that I'm sure they're going to have for McLaren on track, but that really interesting inter-team rivalry between two great drivers on the grid and equally great characters off it. So, in terms of who is going to come out on top, well, now it's over to you guys. So, let me know all of your thoughts and all of your predictions about McLaren in 2021 in the comments below. Well guys, there you go. Now, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button as well. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers, so that would be greatly appreciated. And anyway guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.